This summer, one of my close friends turned 40. Now, I'm not one of those guys to buy guy friends birthday cards, but come on, it was 40. So I bought him this card and I started writing the message. And I'm totally paraphrasing here because I frankly can't remember the exact words I wrote. But I had bad news for him and I had good news. The bad news first, he's old. Now, I have the creative freedom to tell him things like that since I'm quickly running up on the 4-0 milestone myself. He's nearly a half century old. He's been living his adult life longer than he's lived his pre-adult life. But here's the good news. He will soon be wrapping up the 40 least impactful years of his life. Yes, you heard that correctly. Those were the 40 least impactful years he'll ever have. During those 40 years, he had a cool childhood, he crushed the high school sports game, he went on to play collegiate athletics, he got married, he found a career, he had kids, he found a better career, he raised his kids, all the while growing in his faith and in his relationships. But yet, those were the 40 least impactful years of his life. As I think about his journey in his life, I can't help but think about my own. After all, I too am nearing the 4-0 mark. And as I sit here in my late 30s, not old like him, I can't help but think about how amazing the future looks. In a lot of ways, everything we've been through is just training for everything we're yet to do. All of the experiences, all of the learning, all of the successes, and all of the failures. Each one building on top of the last. Day by day, block by block. The time goes by so fast. I don't know about him, but I feel like I was playing high school basketball just last month. I feel like I was moving into my college dorm room just last week. And I feel like I was starting my first adult job just yesterday. It goes by so dang fast. So here he is, 40 years old. Today, he has more relationships, more experience, more knowledge, more resources, more wisdom, more confidence, and more purpose than at any point in his life. His starting point for the next 40 years will be better than any time in the history of his life. That's a perspective we often don't talk about. We live in a culture that says we should be racing to the finish line, known as retirement. We should run as fast as we can, do whatever we need to do to accelerate the process, and fall over that finish line so we can start to live the life we want. In fact, there's an entire movement bubbling up in our culture around this very concept. It's called f.i.r.e, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. On the surface, what they advocate for, it's really good. Financial independence, making good financial decisions, getting out of debt, living with margin so that our finances aren't a burden in our day-to-day life. But the problem is, for many, not all, but for many, it gets twisted around and taken to another level by glorifying retirement. And even worse, the earlier, the better retirement. I spend a lot of time in the personal finance social media world, and I see a lot of this content. It makes me cringe, as I know so many people are going to be disappointed when they hoard, only to realize that one day, no amount of money or independence will truly make them happy. There's something so important missing from the equation, meaning. And recently, I stumbled upon a young lady's social media account, and she was talking about scheduling her retirement date in her calendar, her Apple Calendar, 8 years from now. She's 29 today. Her singular focus is to save, or hoard, as much money as possible for the next 8 years, hang up the briefcase at the old age of 37. Don't worry though, she said she's still gonna maintain some hobbies to keep her occupied once she retires. Even sadder to me, there were dozens of people dropping comments to applaud her, to encourage her, to celebrate her goal of retiring at 37. She obviously gets to do what she wants, and I certainly don't have the relational equity in her life to try to directly influence her. But my prayer for her is that she finds something that inspires her, that angers her, it fuels her towards a deeper meaning and mission worth pursuing. If not, we all suffer, as we won't get to experience all the amazing influence and impact she could have had on this world. It will be stolen from us and from her and repackaged as an idealized life of leisure. And our culture will rejoice. We often hear stories about the old man who worked his whole life, only to die 8 months after he retired. And we look at that story and we use it to perpetuate this notion that we need to hurry up and retire so that we can enjoy life, or we'll miss on our chance. But what if we have it backwards? What if this man's passing wasn't a terribly timed coincidence, but rather the consequence of losing meaning. After all, these stories aren't rare. They repeat over and over and over again. We hear them all the time. And someday, I believe some really smart scientists, way smarter than me, are going to prove this notion correct. And it's going to shake our understanding of our retirement culture to the core. After all, this is America, and we're all trying to achieve the American dream, to grind away at a career we can tolerate, get a bunch of nice stuff, retire as soon as possible, and live a life of leisure with whatever time we have remaining. As for my old 40-year-old friend, he's just getting started. The game is just beginning. Never before has he had more relationships, more experience, more knowledge, more resources, more wisdom, more confidence, and more purpose than he has at this very moment. The last 40 years are going to be a joke compared to what's in store for him in the next 40 years and the impact he's going to make on this world. And I look forward to looking back on this when he turns 80, where we can assess whether I was right or wrong. And I'll still be the young guy in my late 70s, mind you. But until that day comes, I'm going to keep doing what he's doing. I'm going to wake up every day full of purpose and meaning, excited to do what I'm about to do today. And I'm going to do it every day until I physically and mentally can't do it anymore. And it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be pain, and I'm definitely going to fail along the way. But I wouldn't want it any other way. The next 40 years are going to be amazing. After all, 40 is the new 0, as they say.